clubbed to death on the village square with mothers and their babies and soldiers on tours coming to watch this as something exhilarating. And you know, Trump's rallies are a little bit like that. That's their appeal.
Yes, so my question, you guys have been talking a lot about more modern models of anthropocentrism, but I've just been in a class that's been exploring to the past month and a half, more looking backwards at more ancient examples of anthropocentrism, dating back to like Gilgamesh. And so my question is, have there been models of anthropocentrism in history predating Darwin and his more modern understanding of our inherent biological connection with our organisms that has had any redeeming qualities or outcomes in the progress of human and our like understanding of sustaining practices?
I think that there are ways in which anthropocentrism, I don't see models of anthropocentrism that have been really, quote unquote, progressive. Often there is a desire to find a victim. I mean, the Oedipus story is very interesting. There's the Oedipus myth, and there's the way the Oedipus myth is situated in Socrates. In Socrates, it is never clear that Oedipus killed his father. That is left ambiguous. It is never clear. What happens in the tale is that Oedipus is determined to find the guilty person, that the miasma in Greece must be focused on a perpetrator or a group of perpetrators. And he's willing to make that himself. And in a way, it's a little bit like the Christ story, who assumes the guilt of mankind on himself and is crucified to redeem everybody else. Well, that's a kind of very dubious story. It's very problematic as a story. It is a hubristic story in terms of what the human believes the human can assume, and it's something that I think is really, very, very subject to criticism. You see something redeeming in Gilgamesh?
No, I don't know. I'm just like, I think that what you guys talk about is how this idea of like, if we want to look at our connection with nature and other beings, how, I don't know, ideas like co-evolution, how that's like a much more progressive maybe could be seen as better. But
Yeah.
I think that when we look backwards, when there wasn't really that kind of framework to examine our connection with other beings like that, what, I'm not saying that I saw any redeeming qualities, but like what would you feel like that?
I want to say that I think there is something happens with the Enlightenment and with modernity that produces a more intense form of anthropocentrism. That's necessarily not more aggressive, but that produces a different kind of result, simply because humanity has different tools at its disposal, and that begins industrialization and so on. And of course, that means something, I think. Again, I would, as a post-colonial scholar, if there is a form of anthropocentrism that has redeeming qualities, I think those would be located within indigenous societies, where, it's necessary to imagine a kind of symbiotic relationship to the world that surrounds you, because you're dependent on that for your survival. And so maybe if you excavate those sites in the past, maybe also in the present, but in the past, you'd be able to find a form of anthropocentrism that recognizes or that thinks differently about the human, that still has some redeeming qualities in comparison to post-Enlightenment anthropocentrism. I don't know if you agree with that.
I don't know. I've never really done a systematic study of cultures across time to find out the degree to which. I think all of these comparative things come up, including comparative studies of the human-animal relation and how little there really is that I can find on sort of problems of co-evolution and cooperative relationships. And it's also true that some forms of interaction and non-intrusive forms of experimentation largely based on observation of animal behavior, are very significant and very important. And there are animals who, like dogs and horses, who really do like interaction with humans, who really thrive on it.
I didn't think you to say that.
You don't think that's true?
No, I totally agree. I said I didn't pay you to say that.
Oh,
It just really
okay.
Oh, but
You could just
did,
give me
you
a
did.
horse.
If,
Let her ask a question.
yeah, are there more questions? Oh yeah, go ahead. And
I was really interested when you were talking about the ghost and the as a post-traumatic symptom, and then you were talking about compost heap, I guess, that we all are. And I see just a connection to the field of mycology, which I'm interested in, and I'm an artist and coming not from the CC community or in humanities at all, but I am interested in mycology, and it seems like there's an element of hope there with the research, but also it's interesting to me, knowing what I know about this field of mycology, as mostly being that it's unknown, an understudied field as a result of mycophobia, which is kind of an Anglo, a result of Anglo colonialism. And there's so much research with, I guess you were talking multi-species kind of interaction. Our scientists like Todd Cotter are actually, there's kind of amateur scientists, amateur mycologists that are doing research with like certain mushrooms that parasitize insects, and then using that mushroom to, create fungicides. So instead of having chemicals, spraying those that are harmful to humans and animals, using a natural process to combat blight. But also, mushrooms show up in areas of trauma, as Anna Lowenhaus-Singh has written about, and she also kind of writes about this possibility for hope in the capitalist ruin. And I guess I don't really have a question, but I kind of wondered, like, if you guys could, if you saw a relationship to mycophobia, to mycology, and hope and death and the underground, and that's my way.
The mushroom, as you know, has a thallus, and it doesn't have roots. It is generally a rootless organism.
It's the fruiting body of the organism. The organism is actually the mycelial network.
Right.
So it's underground, but the organism is underground, which I think is a result of mycophobia, because it is connected to the ghost, the underworld, the unknown.
That's interesting. You've seen ghosts with mushrooms?
No, I absolutely.
And fear, and I mean, I guess this is related to fear in terms of survival.
First, I mean, microbiology now, people are beginning to realize is we know so little. And this is just one example of the thing that we know so little about. There's so much knowledge to gather there, which is, again, a reason why we mustn't think about ourselves as being able to steward the world. We don't understand it really at all. We've created a model that allows us to do certain things with the planet, but that's not really knowledge. If there's a steward out there, it's the microbe, and that includes, of course, the mushroom. I attended the International Gothic Association's most recent meeting, and there was a really interesting presentation there that talked about mushrooms in practice, and how there's a suit you can buy that you can get buried in that will break down your body very efficiently compared to other forms of burial. It's the eco-burial that's there, but it's also that particular suit that will very quickly take care of you and the toxins that are in your body. And in the TED Talk for this suit, it's the point is made that the human body is now so full of toxins that it's actually a dangerous item. You can't just put it into the ground and expect the earth to take care of it. So this mushroom suit is a way to deal with it. I think that speaks to what you were saying. So, yeah.
Tonight you sleep with the mushrooms, is that it?
If you're lucky.
I think I'm not taking them away from you, actually leaving them free range so that you can mingle and have one-to-one, one-to-three conversations. So for my colleagues, just a quick note about how do we teach this. From today's experience in my class, bring a bug to your students and see what happens. Yes, my students know, and tomorrow we'll talk more about it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, that was interesting.
Yeah.
The mushroom question was a bit of a difficult one.
Yeah, but it's I don't really know anything about it.
So
Thank
much.
you.
I'm in Amanda's class, so I'll see you all tomorrow. But
Excellent.
it was wonderful.
See you then. But the things that mushrooms can do, the way they work,